Hello, today I'm going to explain the passive. Let's start by an active and a passive sentence. The first one is Van Gogh painted some flowers, and that's the active sentence. The second one is Some flowers was painted by Van Gogh, and that's the passive sentence. Let's turn to the first case. Where is the focus of our attention in the active sentence? The focus of our attention is on the doer of the action, on Van Gogh. Whereas, in the second case, the focus of our attention is on some flowers, on the object of the active sentence, and it is no more on the doer of the action. So, why is the passive used? The passive is used to focus attention on the person or thing affected by the action, rather than on the agent, the doer of the action. Let's be more specific now and focus on the active sentence. Van Gogh painted some flowers. Van Gogh is the subject of the active sentence. Painted, it's a verb in past simple. Some flowers is the object. Now let's turn this active sentence into the passive, and we have some flowers was painted by Van Gogh. As we see, some flowers, the object becomes the subject, and the subject of the active sentence becomes the agent, introduced with by. Now let's focus on the verbs. Painted was painted. As we see, there is a difference in form, but the tense stays the same. So we have painted past simple, was painted again past simple. So how do we form the passive? Why do we use was? Because the passive is formed by the verb to be in the appropriate tense. It means the verb to be is put in the same tense as the verb in the active sentence. So painted past simple, verb to be in past simple is was, plus the past participle of the main verb in the active sentence. The past participle of the verb paint is painted, so we have was painted. The verb paint is a transitive verb and it takes an object. That's why it can be turned into the passive, whereas the intransitive verbs cannot be turned into the passive because they do not take objects. Examples of the passive include every tense, starting by present simple. For example, the flowers are picked today, so they are fresh. Ending with the modal verb in the passive. For example, a book might be published by her during this time. If we want to say who or what carries out the action, we use by plus agent. Example: Starry Night was painted by Van Gogh. In this case, I am using by plus an agent. But if we talk about the instrument, material, or ingredient that the agent uses to do the action, then we use the preposition with. Example: This wall is made with bricks. In this case, I am using with material. Another example: The cake is made with eggs. I am using with an ingredient. The agent can be omitted when the subject is he, they, somebody, someone, one, people, etc. Let's have an active sentence. They picked the flowers. They is the subject of the active sentence. Now let's turn it into the passive. The flowers were picked. In this case, I omit they as an agent, and this sentence is the same as saying they picked the flowers. On the other hand, the agent is not omitted when it is specific or important person, or when it is essential to the meaning of the sentence. Example: the film was directed by Steven Spielberg. By Steven Spielberg is an agent, and it is essential to the meaning of the sentence, and that's why I cannot omit it. The agent is not usually included when it is clear or obvious from the context who the agent is. Example: he was arrested for pickpocketing. In this case, I'm not using the agent because it's obvious that it's the police. The second case includes when we don't know the agent or when the agent is unimportant. Example: her new book will be published next week. In this case, we don't know who will publish it, and it is also unimportant. Moreover, the agent is not included in official notices, news headlines, newspaper articles, advertisements, instructions, etc., because the action is more important than the person doing it. Example: the film will be shown at 8 o'clock, and that's an official notice. The fourth case is to make sentences more formal or polite in order to avoid using you. For example, my book has been taken from my bag. In this case, I'm avoiding saying you took my book. I'm avoiding being impolite. The last case includes when we want to avoid taking responsibility or when we refer to an unpleasant event and we do not want to say who or what is to blame. For example, the window of the class was broken yesterday, and in this case I am not mentioning the agent because I do not want to blame someone. Let's have a look at some other uses of the passive. Let becomes be allowed in the passive. Verbs which can take two objects such as bring, tell, send, show, teach, etc. can form two different passive sentences. Let's have an example and start by an active sentence. Jamie gave Anne a book. Jamie is the subject, Anne an object, and a book another object. So we have two objects in this sentence. Let's turn this active sentence into a passive one, and we have two passive sentences. Anne was given a book by Jamie. Anne, which is the object of the active sentence, becomes the subject, and Jamie, the subject, becomes the agent. This sentence is more common. Okay, let's have another passive sentence using the other object now, a book. A book becomes a subject, and we have a book was given to Anne by Jamie, and again the subject of the active sentence becomes the agent, but this sentence is less common. Moreover, in passive questions with who, whom, or which, we do not omit by. Example, an active sentence. Who wrote this book? The passive one is who was this book written by, so we do not omit by. The verbs here help, see and make are followed by a be infinitive in the active, but a to infinitive in the passive. Example: Alan made Anna do the homework. In this case, we have made plus be infinitive. The passive one: Anna was made to do the homework. In this case, made is in the passive and it takes to infinitive.